I'm getting the start of the practical ways of supporting each other in the community with mental health well-being.
Thank you very much. Give it up to Eva!
We are going to have a panel discussion, and the topic here is mental health. And you're wondering what is happening. I woke up one day and I thought that people should be together because mental health can affect anybody. And when you are going through some serious issues, you feel like hiding away. And you feel as if you're a tick box, or people will just talk about you and you hide more and more, and the depression becomes more. So I thought, how can I bring people out? Because when you tell someone who is going through issues, personal issues, let's go to the shops or let's go to listen to a talk, and they'll be like, okay, I can get this on the internet. But I came up with this idea. How can I make it active? So I went to West Hats College, and this is the boss here. Thank you, Andy, for giving us your kitchen. It is a privilege. It's an honor. Okay? I don't know anyone, yes. And the idea is 12 people. I think it's 12 or 24. Did you give us 20? 12. Oh, all right. I was ambitious, yeah. So 12 people from the community. It's not Kenyan, Asian, anyone. 12 people will come out, and it's a 7-week session, and anyone can cook whatever you want. It is not a master chef. If you want to come and cook burgers, if you want to, as long as you have come out and met with other people, you don't have to have issues. You could be lonely. We are tackling loneliness here. We are tackling depression, mental health. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people have all sorts of this going on. I've got youth I support also. Okay, so we are going to have a panel discussion. Welcome.
Food, but before we eat, let us talk about mental health, because there's been such a huge interest in mental health. People are talking about it. But what we want to find out is, how do we engage the community to really talk about their own mental health? It's easy for me to go out there and advise people, but not talking about my own mental health. So we start by talking about what a little bit of experience of what you've got with mental health. I come from a teaching background. So it means I have dealt with a lot of young people that need mental health support. And being able to identify little bits of a spectrum of what they are portraying that tells you they could be struggling with something is very important to me. So first and foremost, I would say, from my teaching background, I've learned to identify little signals that young people will bring. So that is the first one. As janitor and as a teacher, that's me. But I'm going to put everybody in the spectrum. You're only going to take 30 seconds to say, what is your experience with mental health as a professional?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm a police officer with Hertfordshire, and I was the former mental health and policing team DI for the county, which meant that I looked after the training for police officers who deal with people in crisis at the worst point of their experience. Really, if the police have come, then it's got really bad. So I looked after the officers that were dealing with those people.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Sally. I've just retired from the NHS following 37 years of nursing service users with mental health and disabilities. It seems that COVID did have an impact on the generations that were at school at the time, and also service users with added complications, i.e. autism and etc. They found it quite difficult as well. And you know, it's difficult in the world for people. So let alone having other physical health issues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Janet, my experience, I think, is different hats. One is a pastor, from a church perspective. From the church perspective, where mental health still remains to be a big stigma, we got to be able to address mental health freely, just the same way we address diabetes. When you talk about diabetes, people are able to say, I have diabetes. People are able to say, I have hypertension. So we need to remove the stigma from mental health, and we have to normalize it. Okay, normalize it in terms of it's removing the stigma. It's not a weakness. It's part of life. Okay. So my experience from a church perspective is, especially when it is very demonized. When it is demonized, nobody wants to be appearing like they're demon possessed. But we have to know mental health is an illness like every other illness. It's something that impacts the mind. Now, as a qualified social worker, public health fellow, a domestic homicide reviewer, safeguarding adult reviewer, and investigator, I have come across parents, I've come across pastors, I've come across sheikhs, I've come across prominent people. And my topic will be very much linked between the comorbidity between mental health, substance misuse, and domestic abuse. Because those three triple things go together. And we're going to talk about it later, because I want us to remove the stigma from what I'm seeing with so many women, especially my thesis is on sub-Saharan Africa, depression, mental health, and substance misuse, because at the moment you cannot address mental health without addressing substance misuse, because addiction is also taking the toll of it. Later.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Councillor Dr. Elizabeth Kagebe. You've heard I'm a councillor in the London Borough of Barking and Dagenham, a past mayor, and currently I'm the cabinet member for education, attainment, and schools improvement. That means I visit every school in Barking and Dagenham. I hold meetings with head teachers. And post-COVID, I've seen a lot of mental health issues in schools. You find that the teachers, and I'm also a past teacher, so I know exactly when the teachers complain about mental health, they're just not complaining. It's happening in schools where the students are suffering from anxiety, from depression. Remember, during COVID, they were so much isolated. Most of them really did not socialize. We were just, all of us, confined to our homes. And so that has had a very negative impact, not realizing, not even forgetting the cost of living crisis now, whereby most of the families cannot afford the luxury of getting places to go on holidays and such. So my experience is that it's not just the students, even the parents are suffering from mental health issues, and some of them have no one to share this with, particularly the single parents. where there's a lot of loneliness. And when I go to schools and we hear that there's an increase in absenteeism because the students don't want to go to school anymore. They would rather stay at home, study, use their laptops, and that increases the anxiety, that increases the depression. So I know there's a lot of that which really need to be addressed by everybody. We cannot leave that to teachers. We cannot leave that to the doctors, the parents, the whole community needs to address that. We'll be talking about much more about that later. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Mary Dorena Kello. I have worked both in the NHS and now in the private sector. And surely, as everybody has said, mental health can affect literally any age group of people. So in my capacity, I see it almost every day. And there's little cues that we can always pick out just to figure out that someone needs a little help. And like they've all said, to reiterate, we need to get the stigma out of mental health because it's really serious. It's really upset to see, I was actually talking about this with one of my patients today, that back in the day, the people that used to commit crimes, you would see them from afar and be like, you know what, let me cross the other side. Nowadays, the people that I see on TV that are committing all this crazy stuff, I'm like, they look like us. You don't even know who to run from. So we need to talk about this, and I'm so glad to be part of this right now. Thank you.
My name's Kathy Baldo. I actually grew up in a family where my father was mental health nurse, but he dealt with the criminally. At the time, they used the words insane. So we were exposed to this all the time. I'm a former teacher, I work for a humanitarian agency, and I'm just about to become one of the directors of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. My interest in mental health is something I'm working on now called the empty chair from COVID. My mother died in COVID, and a few of my friends' mothers died in COVID. One of my friends' mothers, they were not allowed to go into a church or anywhere else. They had to go to the cemetery, and they had to just bury her in 15 minutes. I've been speaking to women, especially one woman had to bury her daughter without seeing her again. So you're burying, and that has made such an impact on these people's lives. So the project that I'm actually looking and doing some research into is the empty chair. What happened during COVID and how is that affecting us today? I was with, our neighbour died just after COVID, English guy, and I saw his son today, and we hugged each other, because they too had a very small funeral. And so there are lots of people now hurting because they haven't grieved. They haven't grieved at all. They haven't seen the bodies. They haven't seen people. And so I want to do the work around those people whose families died, and also the people in the NHS who had to deal with this. Because my husband's actually also a pastor, and he would have his members call him and say, I'm a nurse, and people are dying in front of me and I can't cope. So there is an awful lot of pain and suffering out there, and we need to do something about it.
Well, first of all, can I say thank you to Eva for tonight as well. I think it's so important that we do this. So I'm Dean Russell, I'm the Member of Parliament for Watford. I'm also a former co-chair of the Mental Health All-Party Parliamentary Group in Parliament, and I've attempted to change the law on a couple of occasions to make sure that mental health first aiders are part of every workplace, including, I was very pleased to be able to secure a change in the suicide prevention guidelines by the government, I think it was last year, to make sure that they were promoting mental health first aiders in the workplace, and also to change the health and safety executive guidelines so that there's better parity between physical and mental health, and that's something that I believe they've done some changes recently too, but I'm going to be pushing more. I think my passion for this comes from a lifetime of looking at mental health, and in part, as I've said this story in Parliament, that when I was younger, one of my sister's best friends sadly ended his life through suicide, and I always remember hearing my sister sob on the evening that she found out that news, and it had a profound effect on me. And one of the points I've tried to make in Parliament is that if mental health or poor mental health were a virus, wouldn't we be on the look for a vaccine? And if loneliness were a disease, would we not be trying to find a cure? And I think it's upon all of us, society, politicians, every member of society in our community, to look after each other, to make sure we're there for them. And I've often said this before, so forgive me for those who've heard me say it before, but I use an acronym which is HOPE, HOPE. I say that HOPE stands for help one person every day. And I believe very strongly that if each one of us help just one person every day, and sometimes that has to be yourself, then the world would be a better place. Thank you.
My name is Sally Kimondo. I'm a counsellor from Dunstable East. I'm also a social worker and a community leader. For me, mental health is more of self-awareness and the traumas that we carry. Each one of us carry traumas from the time we were young, our backgrounds, and coming into this world, we are bringing our children with those same traumas. So one way or another, or one time in our lives, as Eva said when she was talking about her experience, is that she went through a difficult time. And going through that difficult time, mental health, she experienced the mental health impact. So I think for me, it's looking at it where we can create a safe space for each one of us. There's a time in life where we'll all go through that. I've experienced that myself, and I had to get my self-worth. And your self-worth is creating that place where you're able to discuss and raise this and support other people. And as you're talking about suicide, I think for me, as a social worker, you work with families and the impact that it has. People who have lost people through suicide, they say, the questions they keep asking, why did they not speak to us? If we knew they were going through this, then we'd have been able to step in. So it's trying also to understand what that means for that family and that individual who reached a point and felt they were not worthy or they could not be able to carry on, to speak to somebody, to share what they are going through. That's the experience I'm coming from.
Thank you. I'm Sergeant Brad Cross. I'm the neighbourhood sergeant for the town centre here in Watford. Prior to joining the neighbourhood role, I was a response sergeant, so I would be managing the teams that would come to everyone's aid when you needed to call 999 and ask for police. So my involvement with mental health was one of two things. It would be when it was too late and that person had made the decision to sadly end their life, or it was when they were in that crisis period where they were seriously considering it. It's quite ironic, really, that police officers are probably one of the most, popular, the most frequent people to come into contact with people that are in a mental health crisis. And we're not mental health workers. We don't have any specialist training when it comes to mental health. But we have to put that social worker, that mental health worker hat on and speak to people when they're at their lowest. So I think the most important thing for me out of all this is learning how we can signpost those people that are in crisis to the right departments, linking in. I did a lot of work with, obviously, Sarah's Chief Inspector's area when I was response sergeant, and it's making sure that that person is getting the right help. Yes, we will show up and we will help the situation there and then. That's not going to help them in the long run. We need to make sure that they're getting properly looked after and the help that they need.
Thank you very much. We do have two that have not spoken.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name's Lucy Martin. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Watford Women's Centre. I'd like to say, first of all, a huge thank you to Eva for inviting me along this evening for this fantastic event. So thank you, Eva. Really happy to be here. A lot of the work that we do at Watford Women's Centre is around supporting women with their mental health, particularly coming out of COVID, where we know that the incidences of domestic abuse rose considerably, and we know that a lot of the calls that police will deal with are to do with domestic incidences. And a lot of the work that we do is around making women understand that they're not alone. So that's one of the biggest stigmas that we find with mental health, is people thinking that they have no one to talk to and that they are the only person feeling like that. And so that's one of the first things that I like to share with women who come to the centre, is that very message that you are not the only person feeling like that. And just speaking to someone can make a massive difference to people. We know that we can't fix everybody's mental health problems for them immediately, but we can sit alongside them and offer them a safe space to continue along that journey. So our message really is that for all of us to be talking about mental health, and that it's all of our responsibilities to be looking out for each other. As Dean said, you know, if this was about somebody with a broken leg, we'd all be rushing to help people. So it's exactly the same thing. People's mental health are as important as their physical health, and it's on all of us to make sure that people in our community are supported. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am the host, and I'm very passionate about mental health and supporting women in the community. Everything is from personal experience, and I'll take this opportunity to welcome Rabi to take this space to talk. He's a Watford mental health champion. He's also a counsellor for over 30 years, very good with his work. Rabi, please.
Right, when you have so many of us here with a lot of experiences, it's important for us to give them somewhere to sit and talk. There you go.
I'll stand because I'm not going to...
I'd love you to sit down. I'll sit down after.
Yes, ma'am. Rule number 1, take orders. Especially for your mental well-being. Now, all I will say is everything has been said about mental health, how it affects every single one of us in some way or another. We just don't know whether we are there or up there. But what we all know and we don't do is actually admit that we've got a problem. When I was first working on mental health with Dean, in fact, we came up with a simple slogan: it's okay not to be okay, but talk about it. And really, that first step can actually save so much. I'm just going to tell this one story about a suicide where a friend of mine who actually, we knew he wasn't very well. We kept asking him, are you okay? And he said, yes. I said, oh, I'm just not feeling too well. I've got to go away for the weekend. And never came back. He went away for the weekend, in fact, to end his life. And that's simply because he was from a certain culture, and in that culture, admitting that you've got mental illness was big taboo, and that's what stopped him. And so I think the challenge for us all is actually to, within our families and within our groups, to break that. But you've got so many experts here, so I will end it at that.
I would like you to still sit there because it's important for us to appreciate the offices. Looking at the organizations presented here today, you can clearly see we've got variety in our community. You can also say we've got expertise, we've got experience, we've got qualifications. I mean, for many communities, they find it easy, but for the African community, we are really struggling to get out and ask for help for mental health. And for women, it's slightly better because they kind of speak to each other. What do you think we can do for our men to be able to get up and talk about their mental health? I'll ask you, Dr. Anne.
Thank you, Janet. I believe the first thing is, as Councillor Sally said, self-awareness, reclaiming self-worth. Speaking to men from a focus perspective, like when I was doing my research, what I had to do is to go to the mosques, and I said I wanted to target the sheikhs because people have a sense of belonging. It's easy for people not to go to the statutory bodies, but to go to a Janet, go to Eva. That's why Eva is doing what she's doing, because we do not want stigma, because the moment you get in connection with social work, you are thinking, oh my God, my children are going to be removed, or my career is going to be affected. So for the men, we need more focus groups, we need more forums. I'm seeing most of us start things like cricket clubs, basketball clubs, those kind of things where men can talk openly. But the thing is also to connect with those people who connect with them. The spirituality is very important. I don't mean Christian, or I mean religion, I mean spirituality. Everybody has a spirituality sense of where do you, whether it's Hinduism or wherever, where you go to connect with that person, where you create that rapport. Those people need to be educated. And the chief inspector is it the chief inspector? Sorry, I don't want to give you a title that's not yours. But at the moment, Good. At the moment, good. The chief inspector is here. Is it Sarah or Jane? What we are doing, you do know that there's a new law since the Domestic Abuse Act 2021 came into play. Right now, because of mental health, because as your colleague said there, we're having to interact with the police, and we interact with the police at the wrong time. And that time we cannot save because somebody's name is already tarnished. So Janet, to answer in brief, we need to touch base. Go to the connections. Is it people that are connecting with the synagogues, mosques, churches, wherever? Who are those community leaders? They are very important because those people will go there. But one of the things from a safeguarding heart perspective, I need to say that you need to be educated and you need to add DSL, designated safeguarding lead, because if somebody comes and preempts that they're having issues with mental health, they're about to do something, you need to give them the whole truth, to tell them the implications. Am I connecting with you? So community leaders, churches, kiosks, gyms, people need to be trained because those are the first point of call. You will be surprised to know how many GPs now, when we are doing domestic homicide reviews, thematic analysis is saying the first port of call is the GPs. GPs appear to know something nobody knew, but if they do not follow the golden thread, that get missed. So we need the GP, primary health care, we need the community leaders to all try to break that stigma. I love what our friend Rabbi has said. It's okay not to be okay. Stop stigmatizing it, stop demonizing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me to ask about men is because I know within the community, when men are becoming 60 years old, they are becoming quite isolated. And they have no way of reaching out. As many women have a way of reaching out, maybe with church, women form little bits of community groups and friendship groups. Men find it very difficult, especially from the African community. What are signs do you check that because we can all keep saying mental health. What is mental health? What signals do you check to actually say somebody has mental health?
Hi, again. There's so many signals that we can actually really pick out. And for me, it would really be first from how someone is presenting to you. They'll tell you so much from how they present. Either it will be that sort of sadness, I'm down already, where you can tell that there is something going on and you can sort of probe to find out what's going on. Or it could just be someone really up there and you're like, okay, this person is never like that. What's happening here? It could be them just overcompensating for something that they don't want to say or they're trying to cover up. Or it could just be someone acting normal, but in the words that they say, you pick out a few little things. Like someone can be like, or like the example you gave us, it was like, I'm going for a holiday, and you asked a different question and he's giving you a different answer. So just being able to pick up those cues from what they're saying and from their appearance and from what people do usually, you can also pick up from that. But if it is an instance of someone that you've never met before, how are you able to, in fact, first of all, for your own protection, I have to be so...
Because if they're coming from a home whereby there's no stability, there's a lot of mental health issues there, there's a lot of abuse, maybe personal abuse or alcohol abuse or stuff like that, these young people will start showing some signs, and especially when they're becoming teenagers, it becomes very difficult for them. But for us as a community, because as much as we are sitting here, would like to say we identify in the African community the big problem is the stigma with mental health. And we keep saying the government need to do this, the government is not doing enough. We see a lot of knife crime, we see a lot of abuse, like drug abuse and all that. Children who are losing their own direction. We ask the government to do something. I'm going to ask the Member of Parliament, what do you think the community can do? Now turn it around. What can the community do to make sure that we are really identifying mental health issue with our young people and even with the older people, and how we can work with the government and even with the police to make sure that our community is protected?
Well, thank you for the question, and I'm quite proud that in Watford we have done something actually. So one of my initiatives when I was getting elected 4.5 years ago was an ambition really to train 1,000 people in mental health first aid awareness, and we hit that target last year thanks to the Watford Chamber of Commerce, helped deliver the training. Camelot, now Allwyn, funded it, and we had some fantastic trainers of that, including Rabbi, who very kindly stepped up very early on to make sure we were training people in mental health first aid awareness. And the reason why I say that is that the premise of the training, most of our time is spent at work or in a workplace. A lot of our time is. And actually that's the place where people probably might feel more comfortable or even less comfortable to speak. And the idea of that mental health first aid and first aid awareness training was to get people to understand the signs, but also know where to signpost people to. Because one of the reasons why I think people don't talk about it is because they don't really want to either ask the question or answer the question. They feel very uncomfortable. I think for most people, the reason why Rabbi's point is so strong about asking somebody if they're okay but asking them again is that most people give a very surface answer. They give the surface answer of the answer they think you want to hear. And the challenge as well is that if they tell you they're not okay, you don't know necessarily what to do about it. And so I think the element of that training was, the premise of it was raise awareness and reduce stigma. And so to answer your question about what the community can do with government, I think it's to engage with members of parliament like me and not see us as the enemy. You know, everybody's trying to find a way through this. There's no simple answer. If there was a simple answer to the world's problems, it would have been solved. There's always challenges. But also I think it's about continuing to talk about it, continuing to push about it. I felt very strongly that in Parliament, me talking about mental health, I mentioned it in my maiden speech, my very first speech in Parliament, I talked about mental health and loneliness. And I did it because I felt that actually it's important. If somebody who's seen to be up there, which I'm not, I'm a public servant, I'm the servant to you, not the other way around, but if somebody who's a member of Parliament can stand up in the chamber in Parliament, in the House of Commons, and talk about mental health, then for me that means that no CEO, no chief executive, no leader of a business can say it's not my problem. Because for me, if everybody in society, whatever role we lead, can talk about it, that hopefully opens the conversation. And I think the second thing, and I'm conscious you've done the worst thing, give a microphone to a politician and an audience, which means you'll be here till midnight. So I hope you're not hungry. No, but in all seriousness, I think that the challenge is that we need to look at what we can do individually as well. I often say that as a community, if you took a tapestry of our community and the images and the stories that we tell, if you were to pull off a single thread, as an individual, we're quite easily broken, whether it's mental health or physical health, but easily broken. When you weave us into that tapestry of a community, you can't pull us apart. You can't pull fabric apart. You can't do that. So actually, we're better together. We're better and stronger together. But actually, when we weave our stories into each other, when we connect with each other, when we create spaces to have conversations together, where we're able to be vulnerable with each other, and perhaps for men, to your specific point, be able to go down the pub and have a laugh and joke about each other, that opens up the ability to have a conversation. So I won't say much more because I've spoken far too long, but I do think it's about engagement, about community, and about not seeing each other as being in the way, but as an opportunity to connect.
Thank you very much. I would like the audience to think about a question you can ask one of the panel. I'll bring the microphone to you. But there's a question I want to ask. Most of these things about mental health, we've seen a lot of social media use with young people. What part is social media playing to bring these mental health issues to escalate? Anybody who would like to answer that question? I would like to leave it open. Anyone who'd like to?
I'm not an expert on that, but obviously as a parent, I know, and I've seen it as a teacher. I know social media has had a very, very negative impact social media is very good. I use it all the time if used in the right way. But for our young people, first of all, there is all the comparison. They see all the very well-dressed and wealthy people, and they start thinking, this is the person I should be, and you do not realize the negative impact that you have on that person. Because you find that they want to buy the most expensive shoe. They're in school. They even want to drive the most expensive car because they have seen it on social media, and they think it is real. Some of the things that are appearing have really affected our young people, and I believe, I'm not trying to say social media should be banned, but there should be a control. I know we do have the parental control, but how far can we go? You find that our children these days, even very young kids, are very clever. They're clever than some of us. They'll go and show you how to navigate some of the things, and you are wondering, where did you learn this? Because I never taught you, or I believe your mom never taught you. So it's a very difficult area to navigate, Janet, but I believe it has had a very, very negative impact. I would like to quickly go back to the issue that our MP has talked about, our men, particularly now I'll refer to our black men, the black community, you know, because that is where I've seen the mental health issues mostly. First of all, the way we are, most black communities, we are a community that it's a community, really. Everybody, you find that our kids, you call everybody auntie, uncle, and when they are here, they are really struggling with identity. So what happens to the men at a much older age? If you go back to, for example, Kenya, where I come from, you find that men have got places where they go in the evenings, even if it's not social or drinking places, they have that social life. But here I have realized that our men, once they hit 60, 65, 70, they have nowhere to go. Suppose they don't go to the club to drink, or maybe they don't go to church and you can't force them. So you find they become so lonely, and it's affecting them. They hang out on the TV. What do they get on the TV these days? I don't even watch the news. It's all negative media, you know, very negative. So that is also having a very negative effect, not just on the young people, but even on older people like us. I've said I don't watch TV anymore because you watch and all you are seeing is, oh, a stabbing has happened in Watford. This person has just been killed. You know, you just think, what am I feeding my mind with? So you find that you'd rather not watch some of these things. You'd rather not. You go on your Facebook pages, you go to those of us who are, you find that everything you read is so negative. So it's the impact is really very negative. I don't know what, you know, whether we could have a ban on them, or I don't know what could happen.
Well, India is banning TikTok, USA is on the run to ban TikTok, and the black web is major for our young people. So it's things they can access that we don't know they are accessing. I've got a 16-year-old. If you ask me about her social media and what she's accessing, I really can probably tell you maybe 10% of what she let me see. So I only can, you know, hope that I've taught her ethos and ethics that can make her know these little changes here and there. If I know you're gonna say something shortly, but I wanted to because we do have the representative of the police office here, and I can tell you from when I started teaching many years ago until now, I've lost about 12 young people that I know personally who's died. Knife crime. In London, knife crime. There's a lot of that going on. Is there anything we think we can do because today we are looking for solutions. We can talk about what's wrong, and we can keep talking about what's wrong. We are here in this platform to eat together and talk about what can we do. So I will bring the microphone to you, but I would ask you first, what do you think we can do as a community to really save our young people from what's going on?
Well, one thing I will say is that I think our younger community are a lot better these days at talking about mental health than the older generation. I think we have got to a point now where it is less stigmatized, with perhaps some of the 20-year-olds that I meet in policing now. They talk about things that I would have never talked about as a young police officer. They'll talk about their own mental health. It's not the stigma it once was, and that's not that long ago either. That's only sort of 15 or so years ago. So I have seen a shift in what our young people are doing and saying now, that I think is a really positive sign.
Thank you. And what do you think then we can do to save more and to get them more involved in the community as well, positively?
So it's going back to what the doctor said earlier on about getting in with the community leaders and the faith leaders and stuff like that. So as a neighbourhood sergeant, it's my bread and butter really. We are in amongst our community in Watford Town Centre. I've got about 3 different places of worship within the town centre. We've got mosques, we've got churches, we've got gurdwaras, etc. So it's about removing that vanity from the criminal, the gang life. There's no vanity in it. It's not nice, it's not smart. You're getting money, yes, but it's dirty money. You're not working for that money. Hanging out for weeks on end in a drug den. And I will have these frank conversations with young people, and I will bring them to their senses and realise, look, just because you've heard a few songs on the radio or you've seen a few TikToks or whatever, the life's not about that. You'll be for weeks in that drug den and you may not make it out alive because you've got a rival gang coming after you. It's opening their eyes to these raw, deep kind of subjects. This is the truth of it. It's removing that vanity, it's ripping that plaster off and saying it for what it actually is. So to go back to the question, it's about the community here, spreading that message further than what I can reach. I can get into the churches, I can get into the mosques and all that type of stuff, but it's what the community can do, passing that message on to say this isn't the life you want. You can end up seriously injured or dead. It's a lucky day if you make it out alive, basically, in some of these gangs. So it's about removing that stigma, removing that vanity, and really taking it for what it actually is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For us, in our community, what we've been doing, we have been working with the police. So in Bedfordshire, we've been working with the police. You attended our online event in 2021. And what you're doing, we're talking now to parents and the youth and the children. And what we identified last year is that parents are seeking for the children to start engaging in these sessions from the time they're from 8 years old, 9, because they're saying actually they're being exposed from the time they're at a younger age. Because before we'd say it's for the youth and have an age limit. But now we've removed, you said as long as your child understands, then let's have those discussions. So what we've done, in our sessions, we have a session that is on the 1st of June. And we are going to be doing, I think, first aid. So it's save life aid, because what has become normal and what people are normalizing, if somebody is stabbed, it's quite easy or quite quickly, or people have normalized to take a video and record that stabbing or just record what is happening. But our theme this year, it's not about that. It's about actually you can save that life. You don't have to call the police, call an ambulance. And it's empowering them. The first time we started it was a challenge, but as of last year, we did see a shift of even parents' engagement, because most parents thought it was the other parents' issue. But as working together, especially from a minority community, it's quite positive because it's educating and empowering ourselves. So I take that we are working out together with different organizations.
Thank you very much. Eva, you have opened a can of worms, isn't it? She has opened a can of worms, and you can see what we have around here. People want to speak. Just, you had something to add on very quickly.
I'll just say very quickly because of time. Now, we were here 2019 with almost the same panel, but I have decided this year we are going to put theory into practice, and that is why we have these cooking sessions open for everyone. And now I want to ask anyone in here, and I'm looking for 12 women. 12 women to start us off. If you are willing, please come to me, and we are going to make this talk practical. Yes, because we can just go round and round. 2019 we were here talking about this, almost the same things, and I want that to go a bit further.
We had asked the community here if there was anybody who wanted to say something, because the experience is not just here. It's important for us to talk to the audience. Anybody who would have to say something?
Hi everyone, my name's Eki Archibong, and I run a social enterprise here where we support people within the creative industry, and a lot of the work that we've been doing is using expressive art for exactly these same purposes. So well, I think one thing that I'd really like to mention is the fact that we shouldn't forget that as we're looking at different ways to work with our maybe young people, with our communities, we shouldn't forget the impact of creativity in all that we're doing. I just needed to put creativity on the fore.
Thank you. Actually, creativity, because if you get even young people and older people get busy with their life, they have somewhere to go, things to do, then it gets easier for them to be busy than actually meeting each other vaguely without something to do.
I just wanted to add on to some of the solutions to mental health problems. As a woman of God, as a minister, as a pastor, we have come to realize that, when we pray for them, they come in such a need that, mentally they're disturbed, they are not happy. But we found that when we pray for them, and then after that we'll advise them, we'll give them the Bible, scriptures to read on daily basis, because that is something that really helps them spiritually. And we found that through that, there's a lot of improvement. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It does actually, religion, whether you're, Muslim, Christian, it does give them a base of something to look forward to. So we are going to make it very, very short because of time. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carol. I'm a mental health practitioner. And my background, I do also therapy in the community. So I have worked in Hertfordshire, and I've worked in very different trusts around the county. But I want to commend to what Eva is doing. This is what is lacking in the community, where people can come together and share. My experience with working with all aspects, whether it's the elderly, whether it's the adults, whether it is the CAMS, the younger people, whether it's the forensic people who have done crimes and then they're being rehabilitated in the forensic community. There's a lack of services in the community. And like what the sergeant was saying, it starts with us. What can we do? So Eva, what she's doing is beautiful, because it starts with one. I can come with something else that can help, not necessarily just, this is the whole population. And I have seen it where groups, services have been shut down every other day. Why? Because of funding. Secondly, people are not educated. I do a lot of psychoeducation regarding specific illnesses. And you find most of these things that are coming up is due to trauma. I had, talking about trauma, we all have come from backgrounds where we have trauma, whether it's here, whether wherever you come from. But those traumas, they follow through. But before, I always say to myself is that if we are able to get the traumas at a childhood, whether it's a child who is in adolescence, we can have a community that is fully recovered when they become adults. Yeah, so I commend you, Eva, for what you're doing, and I'll follow you. I'll be one of the women who will start this.
Thank you very much. Very quickly.
Hi, I'm Joyce Kavanagh, a fashion designer in African clothing. When we talk about the community, there's one thing I keep telling my 19-year-old. I said, do not be a hero. If you can hide, hide. If you can run, run. Don't like, I want to show my friends, I can fight, I'm strong. You don't know what the other person have. So that's why I want parents to advise their kids, do not be a hero. If you are dead, you are not a hero. So to be alive is a hero. So we should tell them, do not fight back. If you can hide, hide.
Thank you very much. And lastly.
Hi, good evening. My name is Irene. Sorry, ladies, I'm just talking about boy child. I'm a big supporter of boy child as much as I'm a woman. And I want to ask the councillors and everybody else, I know we have domestic violence homes for women, but I've done a lot of research. There is not much for men. How is the government going? Because we're talking about killing themselves, you're talking about everything. Our men are equally oppressed in relationship, in marriages. What centers or what is the government planning to do to have domestic violence support for men as a boy child supporter?
Thank you very much. Can we hear from the Maasais? Do they deal with mental health issues in Kenya? Because it might just be our problem, right?
Thank you. My name is Daniel. I want to talk about the youth very shortly. When I was growing up, a child in our community did not belong to their parents only. A child was a community child. So bringing up a child was a responsibility of every adult in the community. That is what we have lost. We've lost that because our children nowadays, whenever they try to communicate with others, it's a crime. When we as adults try to correct another parent's child, it's a crime. That is where we have, and that's the problem we are facing. And that has brought about a non-responsible community, where when I see someone's child going wrong, doing wrong, or even going through a problem, I say it's not my problem. That belongs to their parents or their whatever. So I just pass. I forget about that. Before, I remember very well when we were looking after our cows, and if an elder person finds you trying to mishandle cows or trying to be mischievous, you will be whipped. But just a passerby, someone you didn't know, and make a mistake, go and tell your dad or your mom that I've been whipped. You will be whipped. So, you see, you lived knowing that there is someone somewhere who is watching me. It doesn't have to be my parent. Nowadays, it is just my child. So you try to touch my child, you face me. So that's where we are. I think when we get back to our communities, it's good also to try to bring friendship to start with your neighbor's child. Just start there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wow, it takes a whole village to raise a child. Where is our village in the United Kingdom? Ask yourself that. Have you created your village? I'll say just a quick one. Young people have been introduced to this get-rich scheme very quickly. Get-rich quickly schemes. Influencers are social media showing them how nice their lives are, and our children are following those influencers. So I remember I've told a parent just not long ago, because your son is creating a lot of problems, take time off work. Go radical. Stop going to work and actually be available. Be there. Because as much as we could be looking for money, a lot of us do a lot of investment back home, and some of our kids are very miserable knowing that what they want they can't get because my parents are investing back home. So sometimes it's also making sure that our children are getting not just the basic, but they're at par with what their youth are having, so they don't feel left out. Because sometimes them going into those gangs, them going into those groups, them wanting to fit in is because of what we can't provide. So sometimes we have to take that personal responsibility and saying we need to do something different as a community, because the problem is everywhere and we have seen it happen. We have to finish very quickly, but we have to talk to the wise. So you will be closing, because I'm looking at the panel. I can see, we were told the only person who can close a conversation is the older person. So we're coming back to you in a minute.
Thanks, Janet. I wanted to answer a question that has been asked about the boy child. When I was doing my PhD, I was so focused on women as victims until I found research that documented clearly men too get abused. And because of masculinity, men do not want, they shy away. You talk of mental health and masculinity, men shy away. How will an African man appear and say, I'm being beaten, I'm being battered? And that's where they've lost a lot of trust. But according to Domestic Abuse Act 2021, now, if you can go and check what the bill, how the bill was passed and what is catering for, most men have come forward because the definition captures even men. It acknowledges that domestic abuse can happen to all, irrespective of gender. The other thing that has really done well on Domestic Abuse Act 2021 is that all victims are eligible to be prioritized. So go to your local authority, ask them, how are you prioritizing the men who are coming forward and they are being supported? The other thing is that, long time, like when you do research, women would say, I'm sticking to this domestic abuse relationship because where do I go? How can I be moving my children around, albeit the man? And what's happening now, the Act is asking all the housing associations to ensure that anybody who has been a victim of domestic abuse has not only a short-hold tenancy, but a secure tenancy. So if you move them to Leicester, they stay there in Leicester for the rest of the years. So please go research a little bit about Domestic Act 2021. We have a domestic abuse commissioner. We have now a consultation that we have finalized, and we can talk a little bit more if outside this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can see the areas are huge. We started with talking about mental health, but we've looked at different areas. Like I said, we let the elderly make the last comment about mental health, and even the panel itself. Yes, I am respecting the office.
Eva, you never told me I'd signed up for this. Now, I think just by way of winding up, what we've heard here is not news to any of us. We all know what the problems are. As somebody said a bit earlier, what we need is solutions. And I think what we've got here is a willingness to actually find those solutions, is what I've heard. And I'm absolutely feel privileged that Eva has actually invited me into this program that she's started. And just to remind ourselves, the object of the program is not for you to come and cook lovely meals for me. The object of the program is for people with like-minded problems, like-minded solutions, to get around the table as you're cooking, stirring your soup. You like to say, by the way, did you know? Or can you help? We'll take away that formal structures. I think we'll end up talking a lot more freely. So Eva, thank you for what you've done. You've got my support, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying for many others, you've got our support.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Eva to come here so we can cut the ribbon. It's a beautiful program she started. Are you going to be supporting? Yes. Yes, let us do it with action.
Yes. I would like to appreciate some ladies who have really been there for me, and they know themselves. Shiro, please, the girls, I would like to cut this ribbon with very deep Hartfordians. Yeah, come on. This is, come on, help me.
Eva, what are you cutting? Tell us a little bit.
I'm cutting the start of the practical ways of supporting each other in the community with mental health well-being.
Thank you very much. Give it up to Eva. It's okay. Hey, she's got it. Wow, fantastic. Thank you very, very much.
Good evening. Yeah, it's going to be tricky, but I think with all these ladies coming together to share our facilities at the college, hopefully dialogues will start and ideas will be pushed around, and the benefit will be for everyone that attends and much further on from there. So I'm looking forward to my challenges ahead.